So, good afternoon and welcome to all the viewers of APA on Zoom meeting. We are starting a series of webinar every week related to post-COVID issues. So today we select a topic on diabetes and it's a interactive session on diabetes and COVID. With us on Zoom meeting, an eminent speaker, Dr. Bansi Sabu sir. As we all know that Dr. Bansi Sabu sir is a well-known diabetologist of our city, Ahmedabad. સર આપ એએફપીએ સાથે તો ઘણા વર્ષોથી સંકળાયેલા છો અને એવરી યર આપ એએફપીએની સાથે ઘણી એક્ટિવિટીમાં સાથ અને સહકાર આપો જ છો. So without much wasting of time, I request Dr. Bansi Sabu sir to start the presentation on diabetes and COVID. Dr. Bansi Sabu sir, over to you.
So first of all, thanks Dhirender for giving me an opportunity. Thank you Pragnesh for asking me to talk on such a very important topic. And I am really thankful to AFPA for joining and inviting me on this platform. First of all, as we all know that since last almost 15 months, we all could not meet, maybe because of this COVID time. And I just wish for all of you and myself and all our medical fraternity friends to stay safe and have healthy time, particularly for maybe next 1 year or 2 years. We don't know till how long it will continue. Now, there are multiple issues which are there with COVID. Now, first and foremost, very important part, when COVID was started in month of Feb and then in March, in India, we were not knowing what is the treatment. And I think we must be thankful to all our scientists and all doctors who have come out with multiple papers on each and every aspect of therapy. Even they had tried to, tried like a chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, doxycycline, azithromycin, multiple immunomodulators, and I think thousands of drugs have been tried all over the world. And for each and everything, there is a paper. Now, if you just search on a Google or you search on UpToDate or you take any medical library sort of things, if you put diabetes and COVID and only COVID, you will find thousands of papers written on each and every aspect of it. After 1 year, when we were having the second wave, I was thinking one way, it was good from medical point of view. After 1 year of COVID, at least we know many things about COVID. In last year, when it was in month of March and April, we were not knowing COVID, but now we know COVID. How it works, how it affects ourselves, how it is affecting the lungs, what is the across the body, how it can affect the different organs of our body. A person with COVID can have a simple viral infection that we call it mild infection with COVID, like any other viral infection. So what is the important thing at the time of COVID itself? If somebody is asking you that a person is having fever or coughing, the first and foremost important thing is not just RT-PCR or an antigen test. I think a CBC, ESR, your CRP, these are three very important. But other than that, we should not forget SGPT, baseline creatine value, and sugar. So please don't forget these three important blood investigation along with CBC, ESR, and CRP. When you are getting the RT-PCR, don't forget these at the time of baseline investigation. Now, we don't know at the time of diagnosis or at the time of patient symptoms when it is started. You don't know that whether this person from mild infection, he will go to the moderate, he will become severe, he will become serious. So because now the COVID infection had come down, but still I just want to complete it. Maybe after 3 or 4 days, patient may call you back, or every day he might be calling you. And what's the treatment for that point of time? Till that, you can give the vitamin D, you can give multivitamin, you can give vitamin C, and you can give paracetamol. At this point of time, there is no drug which is approved for mild infection. There are some data which shows that in early use of, maybe on the day first, when you are using like Fabiflu molecule, there may be some benefit as far as viral replications is concerned, but it does not decrease either morbidity nor mortality. So whether you give or you don't give, it does not make any difference. As far as other antiviral drug, which is injectable remdesivir, there are a lot of controversy when to give it, whether all patients should be given, and WHO statement and all different specialist statements were also changing. But we know that it is a viremic phase in the first week of a virus infection. But in a mild case, even if you don't give, if the CT score is more than 24, forget. If the CT score is even more than 18, you can think not to give. But if CT score is high, there is a persistent fever, there is a persistent symptom, and patient again, you when got the persistent fever, then repeat the CRP and CBC-ESR on third day. And if you find the neutrophil and lymphocyte count that is more than 3.5, or there is a persistent fever and there is a sudden increase in CRP, which is more than whatever the baseline, it is becoming double, or more than 10, it is increasing, you can think of remdesivir. That is an antiviral drug. But first 5 days of a viral infection is a viremic phase. Now, there is always a confusion regarding the use of steroid in first 5 days. As we were knowing since long that if you give steroid in first 5 days, when there is a viremic phase is going on, should we give steroid or not? Because if we give the steroid, it is a double-edged sword. It can increase the viremia itself. It can increase the replication also. At the same time, when there is an active virus infection is going on, there is already immunosuppression because of virus. Whether while giving the steroid at this point of time, patient may become symptom free, the fever may go away, but still there is a possibility of increasing problem. If this point of time a person develops coughing, you can start with a Budacort inhaler, which is good enough as an anti-inflammatory as far as lungs is concerned, but it will not have any systemic anti-inflammatory effect. The point is, after 5 days, if patient's symptoms remain continue, and you have already either you started antiviral or you have not started the antiviral, if patient remaining symptomatic after 5 days, you have to think now this is not a mild case. It had already become moderate case, because in the first 5 days, mild symptoms, no problem. It means patient is having mild asymptomatic case of COVID. First 5 days, showing polymorphs and neutrophils and lymphocytes that more than 3.5. The CRP is increasing, SGPT is mildly elevated. Then these are the patients who should be, other than the therapy which we have thought of antiviral, the steroid is a choice of therapy. At present, the oral steroid, which is only been used in a big clinical trial, is dexamethasone. So again, I am repeating, it is the only molecule which has been in an oral form, is been clinically tried, is a dexamethasone. So all the papers are with oral steroid is with dexamethasone, not with Medrol, not with prednisolone, not with any other drug. So if you just see the all meta-analysis, the benefit is only with dexamethasone. When the patient is admitted, when person is admitted, there is a oxygen saturation is going down, then it is only with methylprednisolone, injectable methylprednisolone. So these two things are important. Now, it is always 6 milligram is a dose which is to be given for almost 10 days to 14 days. And it does not require any tapering dosing. So I mean, after when you started on a 5th day or 7th day, or maybe on 8th day, if you are starting, the steroid dose is a 6 milligram dexamethasone, or if it is admitted, then injectable methylprednisolone, but it does not require any tapering dose. You can write it down for 7 days straight away. Now the question comes regarding when to stop it. As I told you, it is 7 to 10 days. There is no need for further increase in steroid. So there is nothing like a low dose steroid. There is nothing like a high dose steroid. There is nothing like a escalation of steroid. There is nothing like a tapering of dose of steroid, because the effect of steroid is an anti-inflammatory. If anti-inflammatory effect of steroid is not produced by steroids, then think of other anti-inflammatory drugs which are monoclonal antibody, and we know about the tocilizumab. If it is not available, we can think of other immunomodulators which are there like toxetinib. So I mean, this is very clear as far as therapy is concerned. Now today my major concern, I'm not an infectious disease specialist, my concern is a sugar. Now we know that sugar is, which steroid is to use? Dr. Dhirendra had asked. It is Rexona, it is dexamethasone, which has been in oral form. All meta-analysis is being done with the dexamethasone only. But we are using, because sometimes it is not available or whatever the reason, people are using Omnacotil, people are using methylprednisolone, tablet form, maybe using different forms of it. And otherwise, you can use it because all of them are ultimately interchangeable, but the papers are only with the dexamethasone. That is my point to tell you here. Now, my concern is with the sugar. Now, before this COVID, I mean, the second wave of the COVID, if you just write Bansi Sabu, one paper we have published, and along with Dr. Anup Mishra in our Diabetes India journal, one of the very highest impact factor journal, where we had put that glucose is fifth vital sign. So in a very important paper which we have published, which was published after the Diabetes Care, American Diabetic Association had put the almost similar type of a data that a glucose is a fifth vital sign. So ADA had put a statement that a glucose is a fifth vital sign. On the same basis, me, Dr. Anup Mishra, Dr. Jyoti Dev, Dr. Shashank, Dr. Arvind, around 6 experts in India, and we had come out with a paper that a sugar is a fifth vital sign. Now, what 4 vital signs we all know? It is the temperature, it is the pulse rate, it is the blood pressure, and it is the respiratory rate. Now, during COVID time, the respiratory rate, instead of respiratory rate, it is along with respiratory rate, it is your pulse oximeter, it is the oxygen saturation. So these are the 4 important vital signs which we are measuring at the time of even diagnosis. So when your patient is calling you, the 3 things we can ask if he is not monitoring the blood pressure, the respiratory rate, or the pulse oximeter, that is saturation. It will also show the pulse, the basic tachycardia, or whether person is more sick. Accordingly, you can decide, and the temperature of the person. But don't forget to ask him about the status of the sugar. Even he may not be diabetes. So there is a possibility this COVID is making him unmasking, because you are asking him, please get your sugar, and the sugar may be high. So any random blood glucose level which is more than 140 cannot be normal at any given point of time. If it is more than 200, more than 2 times in a day, if fasting sugar is more than 126, it is always diabetes. If you suspect that random sugar is coming more than 140, whenever you are getting the blood report, please get A1C also. So you will able to know 2 things: whether person is having pre-existing diabetes, whether person was having a known case of diabetes and his control and his uncontrolled status also you will able to know. And the A1C will also tell that if patient sugar is absolutely, it is less than 5.7 or in IGT level, you can also differentiate for that, because this patient may require steroid. So my point is here, the sugar is 5th important vital sign. So don't forget not to check the sugar. It is always any opportunity to interact with the patient, get sugar level. So I mean, the way we are asking, તમારો temperature કેટલું છે, તમારી pulse rate કેટલી છે, તમારી શ્વાસની ગતિ કેવી છે, તમને blood pressure તમે measure કરો છો, એવી તેજ તમે આને પૂછી શકો તમારો sugar કેવું છે. Ask them to buy a glucose meter, that is good enough. If they can't, at least when you are sending the blood reports, put the blood sugar along with it and ask your lab guy, if the sugar is coming more than 140, the random glucose, get his A1C level also. So this is, I'm talking about the baseline. And you will able to differentiate between a non-diabetic patient, diabetic patient, first time diabetes detected patient. Now, what is COVID and diabetes? Is it a new entity? Now, we know there is any viral infection, and particularly in COVID, as it is having a angiotensin converting enzyme one receptor, and through which it also having the effect in the lung. At the same time, we have the similar enzyme receptor which are there in pancreas also. So now when it has action on a pancreas, there is a possibility of COVID-induced diabetes also. So even a non-diabetic person, after 7 days or 10 days, you may find he may become a diabetic. There is a other possibility after post-COVID, this can also lead to autoimmune, because immune autoantibody may be produced, and there is a possibility of antibody produced may lead to beta cell destruction, and there is a new onset of a type 1 diabetes can also occur in a patient with COVID, but that is going to happen post-COVID. During COVID, it is directly pancreatitis or a pancreatic inflammation, or directly affecting on a pancreas, it may lead to diabetes. So why I'm saying this, that you have done at the baseline, the sugar was normal. Suppose the patient HbA1c also came on the day 1 or day 2 normal, but after 10 days, his sugar is increasing, because there is a COVID is also increasing his sugar level. So whenever you are monitoring a patient of COVID, don't forget, even the patient is non-diabetic, still sugar monitoring is an essential part till the person become non-diabetic. Even you had not used steroid, because COVID itself can increase the sugar level too. So that's a second important information which I want to make it very clear. The third thing, on the day 5th or 6th, when you are starting the patient on steroid, again, a repetition of sugar is very, very important, because sugar we must measure again on the day 5th. बस तो अपना 18 यूनिट लेंटस आपी दो, 18 यूनिट लेंटस अपाई दो. Yes, yes. कुछ 5-7 मिनट. So that is the third important point. Even on 5th day or 6th day, when we are starting the patients on steroid, his sugar is to be monitored again. Now the problem comes when a person is having already a pre-existing diabetes, and we know that our 2/3 of diabetic patients are not controlled. So let me start with a first scenario where patient HbA1c had come with 8.5. It's a routine garden variety of patient who had come to you on a telephonic consultation with a fever, and now you are worried because he's already diabetes. Now let me talk about how he has to be managed. So patient with a 8.5 sugar level, whatever the therapy which is going on, we know that it is the gliptin, which is very safe. Even with mild to moderate, all oral anti-diabetic agents are equally good. There is nothing to worry. But you don't know the first day whether this patient will become mild to moderate, or he will become severe, or he will become serious. So the continuation of drugs, some of these molecules which can be continued at this point of time, we are continuing these patients with metformin and gliptin definitely. The SGLT2 infection, SGLT2 may lead to UTI, we know that, and may lead to mycotic infection. And that's the reason, even with mild to moderate infection, if patient sugar is controlled or not controlled, you may think of it. You have to take the decision depending on the condition of the patient to omit or to continue that. Sulfonylurea, if well controlled, I may continue the patient. But if sugar is not controlled, and particularly fasting sugar is high, the first thing which you can add easily is Lantus insulin. A long-acting glargine insulin can be added. You can start with 10 units at 10 p.m. It is already coming in a disposable pen, and you can just give it 10 units and just check the fasting sugar. Fixing the fasting sugar itself will take care of your 80% of your problem. So the fasting sugar, once it comes around 100 or 110, you are comfortable. If it is not coming, you can increase the dose by 1 or 2 units, even if you have continued other drugs. Now the problems come for the post-meal glucose level. The post high, even after good nutrition control, the diet control is very important. Here you can always tell the patient to stop the rice, stop the other things, and decrease the quantity of carbohydrate. Still, if the post-meal glucose, and these patients should be monitored now more intensively, because the garden variety of 8.5 HbA1c patients are more common. You give them a EGI, which is voglibose or acarbose, which can be given to them with the lunch, breakfast, and dinner to take care of post-meal. If post-meal sugar is not controlled with them, a repaglinide and voglibos combination is also available, and which can be given them very easily, which is Urepa V, which is available at Torrent manufacturer, a repaglinide with voglibos before breakfast, before lunch, before dinner, to take care there of post-meal sugar. So I mean, this is the second thing which we can easily do, and then we can start this patient for controlling fasting and postprandial. Now, suppose the same patient after 5 days or 6 days, you have decided to give this patient insulin. So now I'm talking of day 1, you have done the sugar, you have done the A1C. You found his A1C was 8 or 8.5 or 9, 9.5 or 10. You have already added the drugs like repaglinide, AGI. You have added the patients on a Lantus. You have uptitrated the dose of Lantus. And ultimately, you got that fasting sugar had come to 110 and post-meal glucose is still around 150 and 160. Now we are adding the dexamethasone on day 5th, 6th or 7th, whatever the day you want to start the patient. Now, most of these patients who are already having the diabetes, having uncontrolled diabetes, to whom we have already tried to control in first 5 days or 6 days, and now we have to start these patients on a steroid. These patients will require basal bolus therapy. So the best thing which you have done already, the first 5 days you have not rested. You have already started these patients on a Lantus. You started them on a voglibos or AGI was added to them. But now still the sugar is very high. Their post-meal glucose will increase because steroid, how steroid increases the glucose level? One, it increases the glucagon level. So the post-meal glucose level will be very high. It suppresses insulin secretion. It has action on a fat cells also, which increases insulin resistance very, very high. It does not allow your glucose uptake, which has to be done in muscle level. So there is a very high amount of insulin resistance. And third thing, steroid itself is a gluconeogenesis, which is at the level of liver, and also the protein and amino acids are also broken down, and they also make the new glucose level in the body. So this is the how the steroid increases the hyperglycemia. This is the basic reason why it increases. Normally, when we give the patients on a dexamethasone, their post-breakfast, their post-lunch, and post-dinner sugar will be very high. But again, the midnight sugar may not increase because these are on oral steroid once in a day in morning time. You will find their patients post-breakfast, post-lunch, and post-dinner sugar are very high. Start them on a short-acting insulin. Now, short-acting insulin, we know the regular insulin, home insulin R, Actrapid, or you can give them Novorapid, Fiasp, Humalog, or even Epidra, which is your glulicin. These are the short-acting insulin which can be given before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner. After checking their sugar, and this should be given minimum 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on what type of insulin you are giving. They should check their post-meal glucose level also. And the post-meal glucose level should not be more than 180. So that's the target glucose level. Post-meal should not be more than 180. If patient is keeping more than 200 most of the time, then their risk for secondary infections are very high. So why I told you two things. One is, in the starting time, don't use the azithromycin, doxycycline, which does not have the data. Ivermectin have some data just because India have a lot of worms and there is an anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory effect can be there. If you have a definitive evidence of an infection, then and then you use antibiotic. Otherwise, don't use, because using the antibiotic will create three problems. One is there is a secondary bacterial infection will be high. Whatever the bacteria which are there, they will become more resistant, and there will be super infection. And the super infection could be because of fungus, could be because of other virus, and it could be because of antibiotic, other bacteria also. That giving antibiotic will also decrease their immune system, because the commensals which are there in the intestine system will also go away and they will be died off because of the antibiotic. So no need to use unnecessary use of these antibiotics. Now I would also say those patients who are started with steroid, they are also given prophylactically antifungal. I had seen many of the prescriptions started with fluconazole, commonly started just thinking that they may have secondary infection. The possibility of that is also very less. And again, don't give it, because again, we are killing some of the normal fungus which are commensals in our body, and you are again, increasing the chances of getting other infection. Now, it is not only the glucose level from where the fungus is coming that is equally important. So it is the oxygen, the tube, it is the water through which it is coming. So there are other reasons also, but it is developing only to those persons who are having uncontrolled diabetes. They have very high sugar level, and there is a immune system is getting so much dysregulated because of diabetes, which is unique. It happens with them. It can also happen with other patients who are having on immunosuppression, like post-transplant patients, the patients who are already on long-term steroids, the patients with malignancy, patients with neutropenia, patients with already with other immune problems, like a patient with rheumatoid arthritis who is already been given a agent like immunomodulatory agents which are going on to these patients. So I mean, these are the one who are going to develop this infection. Otherwise, this infection is not going to be developed. So there are two things. One is our immune system, our resistance, which is going to make you more prone, and other from where we are going to get it. So the source is also equally important, and that's the reason we are asking and requesting those who are on the home oxygen therapy, those who are in hospital, those who are using nasal prongs, those who are the COPD patients, those who are taking the oxygen regularly on BiPAP and all those things, they should be worried of this infection, because it has to be cleaned more frequently for not to get the infection. So one is to keep 180, another is from where the source is to be cleaned also. But the basic principle is to keep the sugar level most of the time less than 180. More than 200 milligram definitely makes someone more prone to develop this. Diabetes or a glucose is the fifth important vital sign. We are having adult population 15% who is already diabetes, and probably we have another 15 to 25% population who is at the risk of developing diabetes, or many of them are already pre-diabetic. So I mean, if we are already like 23% out of them, I can tell that 1/3 of us either diabetic, if not diabetic, pre-diabetic, if not pre-diabetic, we are prone to develop diabetes. Now, if I'm putting it above the age of 18, but if I put it, all of us are above the age of 50, probably this value will not be 1/3, it will become 40%. So out of 23, it may be 10 of us are either diabetic, pre-diabetic, or prone to develop diabetes. So if any of us is given steroid, probably this incidence will become 50%. So again, after the above is the 50, because steroid itself can increase, even if we are not pre-diabetic, diabetic, 12% of the population it can become, who is absolutely does not have any risk, it can also become diabetic. So I mean, out of 24 or 23 or 22, 11 of us may be at the risk of developing this. The best therapy is basal bolus therapy. Gliptins can be continued for long term. The metformin, the only problem is because of hypoxia, it can lead to lactic acidosis. So those patients who just become mild to moderate, the first thing you can think of omitting that. If SGLT2 otherwise fine, but because SGLT2 can also lead to UTI or mycotic infection, it's better to stop. GLP-1 analog, we don't continue because of the appetite suppression effect of it, which may confuse the patient with that, and that's the reason we may omit it. Glitazone, it's well-controlled diabetic, fine with that, but because it has a fluid retention property, you may continue, you may discontinue also, depending on the situation to situation. A pre-existing patient with a obese patient with a heart failure, impending heart failure, you may stop it also. The sulfonylurea in a low dose, it can be continued, it's safe, but in a high dose, the risk of hypoglycemia is always there. A short-acting glenite like repaglinide is good enough. Alpha glucosidase inhibitor, we start it only in early case, but as the patient after 3, 4, 5 days, it is better to stop and put them on a short-acting insulin analog. So insulin is the only answer for the patient who is in COVID, in peri-COVID area, whether he hospitalized, not hospitalized. We know that, and there are some videos which are already ready-made made by the different companies. You can just send the patient directly at home how to use it, how to buy, from where to buy, how to inject it. So you need not to discuss with that. Only thing you should know that when to start it. And I had already talked about the steroid need not to be stopped in a tapering dose. After 10 days, as soon as we stop it, again the sugar monitoring will be continued. Now, sugar monitoring to be continued for next 6 weeks to 6 months, because as I told you, COVID itself can lead to COVID-induced diabetes. The steroid effect will be for another 1 week. Then the medication are dhime you have to decrease the medication. That's again an issue. Then whatever the pre-existing medication which was going on, you are restarting or resettling all those medication also. Once the patient is fine, you may do their continuous glucose monitoring. But the monitoring of glucose for these patients may be very, very important, maybe for another 1 month or 2 months. And we don't know about their infection chances also. So it's better to keep them under strict glycemic control to avoid this deadly infection. Now, just one word about the mucormycosis. I am sure all of you must have heard in your MBBS days also. It was a short note sort of thing, some fungal infection, and one of the important mucormycosis. Even our MD days, we used to see hardly 1 or 2 patients every 3 months or 6 months. That was the history of civil hospital, where we were getting all different type of patients. And we used to write like it's a death sentence. Because at that time, liposomal amphotericin was not available. The amphotericin which was available was highly nephrotoxic, and patient has to, we used to get the patients in a very late stage. Nobody was ready to operate. Even OT was getting so much disturbed. The plastic surgeon, ENT surgeon, and ophthalmologist, all 3 surgeons used to meet together, and then they used to operate. Sometimes neurosurgeons were also involved, and most of the time they used to die. So we used to write like mucor means death. Then in a private practice, what I had seen, still I get almost like once in a month to once in 3 months, either a reference or directly a patient's of mucor. I'm just talking of pre-COVID. And with the amphotericin which was available to us, and very good infectious disease specialist, and now we have very good plastic surgeon, good hospital setup, in the early course of diagnosis, we are saving 50% of the patients. Now, during this COVID time, this black fungus and mucormycosis, still we can save the 50% of the patients, but because of the paucity of the molecule, the amphotericin itself availability is doubtful. Many of them will die still. So, I mean, the best thing is to have a better glycemic control to prevent them from this mucormycosis. Otherwise, very, very costly, very deadly, increasing morbidity and mortality. Some of them who are surviving, they may lose their eye, they may lose their figure, they may lose their face, and God knows what will happen. The disfigurement is very, very high with this. With these few words, I can discuss on any other thing, but I mean, this is 30-40 minutes I talk, but I would like to have anyone who wants to have any questions related to any aspect of the COVID, diabetes, or steroid, and then I can plan with Pragnesh what 4 or 5 topics which we can discuss. I can make some of the PowerPoint. Some of them are already available with me. He can write to me and I can make for them. And every day I can discuss for half an hour to 45 minutes. This is what I told him, 45 minutes I can definitely talk. Then after that, you know, my throat is also starts paining.
Rahil, open everyone for questions.
But is it okay, whatever I told the information?
Everyone is open.
Yes. Unmute all and ask, allow them to ask questions directly.
Yeah. All can ask questions.
Yes.
I'll be very happy if they can show their video also and face also.
Sir, at what level? Sir, at what level you recommend insulin to start?
So as I told you, the patients with this COVID situation, if your patient fasting sugar, because the first thing you have to get the A1C. So, you know, at the time of, I told you that garden variety of diabetes or a pre-existing diabetes or a first-time detected diabetes, you will find a lot of patients with 8.5 and 9 HbA1c. So these are the patients, check their fasting sugar. If fasting sugar is more than 150, don't hesitate to start them on at least on a basal insulin, and make sure their good diet control will help their post-meal glucose to get control. Once their post-meal glucose does not get control, you can think of giving them alpha glucosidase inhibitor, glenites, and the short-acting insulin. These are the three hatiyar which are there with you. And we are already getting 5 and 6 days, because you are not going to start day one the somebody on steroid because he is on viremic phase. So I think why we can't do it? The only problem is we are not considering sugar as an important vital sign. We are asking patient to do the everyday the pulse oximeter saturation, but we are forgetting his sugar to be checked. If we do it from day one, you have already good 5 days to already control his sugar, whatever his sugar was there, whether he was pre-existing, not existing, this. And once you start already, now you are starting steroid. So now you have to take care of steroid-induced hyperglycemia, which you are now continuously to add these patients on basal already they were, and now you just increase the dose of bolus insulin. Accordingly, you can get their good control, and they should continue to monitor. We are asking each and every patient to buy a pulse oximeter, which may cost them 1,500 rupees. Similarly, 1,500 rupees they may cost for 100 strips and a glucose meter, which they can always buy.
એટલે આમાં એમાં બે વસ્તુ હું એવું સમજુ છું ટૂંકમાં કે એક એવું ટેક હોમ મેસેજ તમે કહો છો અમારા લોકો માટે કે દરેક પેશન્ટનું બેઝલાઇન શુગર કરાવો એટ ધ ટાઈમ ઓફ ડાયગ્નોસિસ ઓફ કોવિડ.
SGPT and
Only sugar, HbA1c.
The national guideline is saying to all primary care physicians that you should not miss any opportunity to check the sugar. એટલે તમે જ્યારે ક્લિનિકમાં બેઠા હોય ને તમારા પાસે પેશન્ટ ડાયરિયામાં આવ્યો હોય, જેને કોઈ હિસ્ટ્રી હોય જ નહીં, કાંઈ ના હોય, તો તમારે શુગર ચેક કરવાનું, આનો એબ્ડોમિનલ ગર્થ લેવાનું, અને શુગર નોર્મલ હોય તો આને 3 ભાષણ આપવાના કે તમારે તમારી પેટ ફાંદ ઘટાડો, નહીં તો તમને ડાયાબિટીસ આવી જશે. અને ડાયાબિટીસ શુગર હાઈ આવે 140 થી ઉપર તો તમારાનો HbA1c કરાવી લેવાનો.
ફાઇન, ઓકે, ફાઇન. અને નંબર 2, જે ડાયાબિટીક હોય એનું ડાયગ્નોસિસ, એનું બેઝલાઇન ઇન્વેસ્ટિગેશનમાં HbA1c કરાવવાનું, બરાબર?
હા, 100%.
ઓકે, ફાઇન.
અને જેનો બી A1C ફાસ્ટિંગ શુગર કે રેન્ડમ શુગર 140 થી ઉપર આવે, A1C તો કરી જ કાઢવાનો.
પછી કરાવવાનું.
350 રૂપિયામાં A1C લેબમાં કરી જ કાઢે. તમારે ડે 1 માં ડી ડાયમર નહીં કરાવો 900 રૂપિયાનો તો ચાલશે. ડે 1 ડી ડાયમર નહીં કરાવો તો ચાલશે. LDH નહીં કરાવો તો ચાલશે. ઇન્ટરલ્યુકિન નહીં કરાવો તો ચાલશે. એ તમારે જ્યાં સુધી પેશન્ટ હોસ્પિટલાઇઝમાં નહીં થાય ત્યાં સુધી તમારે કરાવવાની જરૂર નથી. તમારે CBC, ESR, CRP, શુગર એકવાર તમે બેઝલાઇન ક્રિએટિન કરાવી લીધો ને SGPT કરાયો, એ 6 રિપોર્ટ તો હોવા જ જોઈએ. એટલે આપણને ખબર પડે કે પેશન્ટની સ્ટેટસ કેવી છે.
બીજું લેન્ટસનો ડોઝ આપણે જે રૂટીન બીજા પેશન્ટમાં 3-4 દિવસે ચેક કરતા હોય એની જગ્યાએ આમાં ડેઈલી કરવાનું.
ઓલ્ટરનેટ ડે શુગર તો ડેઈલી જ કરવાનું, પણ યુ કેન ઇન્ક્રીઝ ધ ડોઝ બાય ઓલ્ટરનેટ ડે. સ્ટાર્ટ બાય 10 યુનિટ્સ, મિનિમમ 10 યુનિટ્સ થી ચાલુ કરી શકો.
અને બીજું તમે એવું કીધું કે મેટફોર્મિન maybe need to be withdrawn, otherwise all anti diabetics જે પેશન્ટ લેતો હોય except SGLT2 consider, otherwise બધી ચાલુ રાખી શકાય.
તમે ઇવન SGLT2 બી ચાલુ રાખી શકાય. ધેટ ડિપેન્ડ્સ ઓન ઇન્ડિવિડ્યુઅલ. સપોઝ કોને કોઈ હિસ્ટ્રી ના હોય, પણ અત્યારે જ ઓલરેડી આને એક્યુટ ઇન્ફેક્શન થયેલો હોય, UTI થયેલો હોય, ખંજવાળ આવતી જ હોય, માઇકોટિક ઇન્ફેક્શન ના ચાન્સ હોય, એટલે તમે એને કહો કે આ બંધ કરી દે, ખોટું આની એક નવી બબાલ ઓર ઊભી થાય.
So methyl prednisolone, the less chances of developing diabetes.
No. All steroid will have a similar effect as far as glucose level is concerned. Only difference between different steroid is their mineralocorticoid effect. So the mineralocorticoid effect will have their electrolyte imbalance system, their fluid retention problem, their heart failure issues. They may be different for the different steroids, but their corticosteroid effect is almost same.
ચટવાણી સાહેબ, ડાયરેક્ટ ક્વેશ્ચન પૂછો, તમે ચેટમાં લખ્યો છે, ડાયરેક્ટલી પૂછો ડોક્ટર ચટવાણી.
So the Mixtard, instead of if already patient is having A1C 9, I will not go for the Mixtard. I will go with the Lentus as well as the bolus insulin. So the basal bolus therapy is always better, because to monitor these patients become much easier. Mixtard માં તમારા પ્રી બ્રેકફાસ્ટ અને પ્રી ડિનર 2 ટાઈમ શુગર કરીને તમે ડોઝના ઉપર નીચે કરો, અને તમારો લંચ વાળો શુગર હંમેશા હાઈ રહી જાય છે. એટલે આને કરતા પેશન્ટને તમે બેઝલ બોલસ કરો, લેન્ટસ પર મૂકો, ફાસ્ટિંગ શુગર ચેક કરતા રહો, પ્રી બ્રેકફાસ્ટ, પ્રી લંચ અને પ્રી ડિનર તમે આને ફિયાસ્ટ, નોવો રેપિડ, હોમાલોગ જે આપતા હોય આપો અને પોસ્ટ મીલ sugar check કરતા રહો. If the sugar is less than 180, you are happy. At the same time, you can also tell the patient and you can teach the patient about the carbohydrate intake. એટલે ખાઓ
Right.
કેટલી, 3 રોટલી ખાતા હોય તો 2 ખાઓ, 2 ખાતા હોય તો આની અંદર સોયાબીનનો આટો અને ચણાનો લોટ અને જવારી નાખો એટલે મલ્ટીગ્રેન બનાવો, સબ્જી વધારે ખાઓ, સલાદ ખાઓ, છાશ પીઓ, દાળ લો, સૂપ લો, ફ્રૂટ ખાઓ, વેજીટેબલ્સ ખાઓ, એટલે નટ્સ ખાઓ. These are the ways by which you can decrease the carbohydrate intake and you can make the post meal sugar also better controlled.
અત્યારે ઘણા બધા પેશન્ટને કોવિડ થયો હોય ને ફર્સ્ટ ટાઈમ ડાયાબિટીસ ડિટેક્ટ થતો હોય છે, તો એ લોકોને એકવાર ફરીથી ચેક કરાવવાનું 2-3 દિવસ રહીને કે ટ્રીટમેન્ટ સ્ટાર્ટ જ કરી દેવાની?
Again I told you સંજયભાઈ કે જે હું તમને કીધું કે બેઝલાઇનમાં કરાયેલો નથી. હવે તમારા પાસે એક 10મા દિવસ પેશન્ટ આવ્યો છે અને શુગર આવ્યો 300, so you are confused. આપણે આજે એક વેરાયટીના પેશન્ટની વાત કરી, જે હું સિમ્પલ વાત કરી, પણ 10મા દિવસ તમારા પાસે સીધો ફોન આવ્યો, મને 8-10 દિવસથી ફીવર છે અને તમે આનો શુગર કરાયો અને આવ્યો 250, 200, 300 જેવી. સો તમારા પાસે જે દિવસ ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી આવે તે દિવસ આનો શુગર તો હોવું જ જોઈએ. શુગર ઇફ મોર દેન 140, ગેટ A1C. A1C સપોઝ કરો પેશન્ટ કે મને તો સાહેબ ડાયાબિટીસ હતો જ નહીં ને નો આવ્યો છે. હવે તમે અત્યારે 10મા દિવસ બેઠા છો, પેશન્ટનો તમારા પ્રી એક્ઝિસ્ટિંગ કન્ડિશન, અત્યારે સ્ટીરોઇડ ચાલે છે, નથી ચાલતી, ઠીક થઈ ગયો, નથી ઠીક થયો, એવા ઘણા બધા કન્ડિશન હશે. સપોઝ કરો પેશન્ટ 10મા દિવસ આખો સિમ્પટમ ફ્રી થઈ ગયો અને તમને એવું લાગે છે કે હવે આમાં કાંઈ થવાનું નથી, સો યુ આર ટ્રીટિંગ હિમ લાઈક એ ન્યૂલી ડિટેક્ટેડ ડાયાબિટીક પેશન્ટ વિથ એ 9 HbA1c. Suppose you feel that this patient still may require 5-6 days of intensive control because patient na problem થઈ શકે છે, પાછળ કોઈ સ્ટીરોઇડ આપેલી છે નથી, હજુ આપવાની જરૂર પડી શકે સિચ્યુએશન, you better start basal bolus therapy. બબાલ કર્યા વગર જ કોઈ માથાકૂટ જ નહીં કે ભાઈ તું અત્યારે શુગર કંટ્રોલ રાખ યાર 4-5 દિવસ માટે. I just paused.
Fine.
Right?
Yes, perfect.
So that's very clear how you are dealing at what stage of the corona you are dealing with the patient.
Yes. That's
Suppose
true.
a patient had come, I just tell you after, because I am getting the maximum patient after 15 time post-COVID. They
Yes.
are coming in, they had already started on, he was already on steroids, the sugar is now 500. Now I can't go back and treat him. I have to treat it from day one now. So મારો અત્યારે કામ શું છે, 500 ના sugar ને ફટાફટ કંટ્રોલ કરું, ઇન્જેક્શન આપ્યા, હવે સ્ટીરોઇડ બંધ કરી દીધો, 3-4-5 દિવસમાં સુગર વેલ કંટ્રોલ કરીને પાછા 3 દિવસથી આનો ફોન કરીને કંટ્રોલ કરીને એજીપી લાઈને માને 1 અઠવાડિયાના અંદર બધું સેટલ કરી કાઢ્યો. મારે પાછો દાખલ કરાય નહીં, ઓલરેડી દાખલ થઈને આવ્યો, ત્યાંથી 500 લઈને આવ્યો છે. સો I am, at a different stage we are getting different patients. Now it is not your mistake. My point is, as a doctor, if I had some patient had called me on day 1 કે મને આજે શરદી ખાંસી લાગે છે અને મારે શું કરાવવું, એટલે તમે જ્યારે આનો CBC, ESR અને CRP કરાવો છો, એને સાથે હું તમને કીધું કે બેઝલાઇન ક્રિએટિનિન, બેઝલાઇન શુગર અને SGPT, એ 3 રિપોર્ટ આપણે ભૂલવું ના જોઈએ અને લેબ વાળાને કહીને રાખવાનું કે શુગર 140 થી ઉપર આવે તો A1C કરી કાઢજે.
કરેક્ટ.
એટલે આપણો બિલકુલ ક્લિયર છે. પછી તમારે કોવિડ નો પ્રોટોકોલ પ્રમાણેનો પાછો 3જા દિવસ તમે CRP કરાવવાના છો, એ ઇન્ક્રીઝ થવાનું છે. ઇન બિટવીન HbA1c હાઈ આવ્યો ત્યારે તમે આને ફોન પર કહો, એક ઘરે જઈને પલ્સ ઓક્સિમીટર લઈ આ, બીપી ઇન્સ્ટ્રુમેન્ટ બી ખરીદી શકે તો વધારે સારું, કોઈને મંગાઈ લે, અને જોડે જોડે ગ્લુકોમીટર બી લઈ આવે. બરાબર ને?
ડુ યુ થિંક કે ડાયાબિટીસ વાળા પેશન્ટને ઇન્ફ્લેમેશન વધારે થાય?
So this second wave of COVID is completely changed. So like the first wave, we were thinking it is only creating more problem to the persons who are having diabetes, obesity, heart disease, kidney failure patient with significant comorbidity and elderly patients. Now probably the second wave hit also the younger person. Maybe the reason was there may be some mutation in the virus, or the second possibility is many of us who were above the age of 60 or even healthcare workers might have taken the vaccine. So now the virus was affecting more younger persons, because those who could not affect the elder one, they will direct to the younger one also, because they were otherwise feeling that they will never develop any complication. Now 2 things is very common. I mean, those who have already immune problem like CRF patients with malignancy are always at high risk. But the second is obese and diabetic. They are more prone to have a more morbidity. So I'm not talking of whether they are getting more affected than a normal person. The infection can happen to anyone. But if I get an infection or if a diabetic patient will get an infection, probably the chances of in more morbidity diabetic patients may have. But unluckily, I may have also. But here when we are putting in a percentage, obese person and diabetic patients are more prone to have more morbidity. But definitely, diabetic patients have an immunodysregulation because long-term prolonged diabetes itself making them immune deficient. Yes, Dr. Ashok bhai.
એક ચેટ બોક્સમાં ક્વેશ્ચન છે.
Sorry, let me see.
Diabetes due to COVID is reversible or not?
So we don't know the long term. As I told you that 18% of the patients who are on steroid, they may have a permanent diabetes. Similarly, the COVID is a new disease. We don't know the long term what will happen to them.
Okay, fine.
If it is because of angiotensin converting enzyme 1 at the level of pancreas, which is affecting, it may get reversed. If it is mildly inflamed, it may become permanent. We don't know. If it is because of autoantibody induced beta cell destruction, then it will behave like type 1.
Okay,
So
fine.
at this point of time, we don't know whether it will be reversible, but we know that it causes diabetes. That much we know it.
Right.
તમારે અનમ્યુટ કરવાનું છે ડોક્ટર બોડીવાલા.
રાહિલ એમને અલાઉ કરો, બોડીવાલા સાહેબને અનમ્યુટ કરો. રાહિલ
allowed જ છે.
હા, બોડીવાલા સાહેબ નથી સંભળાતું, અનમ્યુટ કરવું પડશે. અનમ્યુટ કરો સાહેબ. ખબર નહીં શું થાય છે.
બરાબર
સાહેબ
બટન
નથી
આવ્યું હશે સર.
સાહેબ લીવ નો
સર
બટન.
એવા કોઈ કેસીસ છે કે જેમાં મારે એક કેસ એવું છે કે જેમાં પેશન્ટ ડાયાબિટીક હતું અત્યારે નોન ડાયાબિટીક થઈ ગયું છે.
Yes.
એટલે ઓર્ડિનરી પ્રી એક્ઝિસ્ટિંગ ડાયાબિટિક પેશન્ટ હતો.
હા, પ્રી એક્ઝિસ્ટિંગ ડાયાબિટીસ હતું પેશન્ટ.
અને પેશન્ટ હાઇપોમાં જાય છે.
હા હા, હાઇપોમાં જાય છે.
Is the patient was on a quinolone? The renal function is normal. Is the patient had developed any chronic liver disease? So these are the three conditions where the patients may not require any anti-diabetic agents if he is getting liver problem, if he is getting this. The third condition is sometime in a patient with a severe septicemia may become
Yes.
a patient of a hypoglycemia.
Yes.
But other than that, if he is developing, then it's a case to be discussed and we should, paper should be presented for that. There is a possibility. Anything can happen. Yes, Bodiwala sir.
Yes, my question is that a patient of COVID getting diabetic ketoacidosis.
So diabetic ketoacidosis, again a severe emergency. We lost few patients because of diabetic ketoacidosis. The pre-existing type 1 diabetic patients or a significant severely insulin deficient patients, when they were either stopped insulin or maybe they themselves have stopped the insulin because of they were not eating, they were having their sugar level which was checked only random sugar 4 hourly or 6 hourly. Sometimes their sugar was less and they were not given the basal insulin. They have developed diabetic ketoacidosis. Late diagnosis, delayed diagnosis, and intensive care on even in normal hospital. Primarily, they were trying to treat these patients only with, they were thinking that this person is having some other problem. Now, the persons with the diabetic ketoacidosis will have a different type of breathlessness, which is, we know it's a ketotic breathing. And that is not the breathing of COVID. COVID patient have happy hypoxia. Even his oxygen level is less, he will not become breathless like anything unless it goes less than 75. So there is a difference between a hypoxia developed by COVID and if he is developing because of diabetic ketoacidosis. These two patients can be significantly, just by seeing them, you can diagnose them. But unluckily, if they are not diagnosed, late diagnosis, they may die. Now, patient with diabetic ketoacidosis, if he is having COVID, the treatment of diabetic ketoacidosis remains same. It is the fluid therapy. It is continuous IV insulin infusion. The third thing is electrolyte balance during the COVID time. So these are the three things which remain a cornerstone of a therapy of diabetic ketoacidosis, which is to be maintained. The patient should. બેટા અમને કહે ને 2 મિનિટ પછી વાત.
સાહેબ અહીંયા આજનું ડિસ્કશન સાહેબ અહીંયા રોકી દઈએ હવે સાહેબ.
બસ
Sir, just a hard question. We have to we have to keep in mind the pulmonary congestion while treating ketoacidosis?
So the pulmonary congestion could be because of sometime a patient with a diabetic ketoacidosis recently I had seen. There is a possibility he may have underlying heart failure. He may have underlying lung infection also. So sometime that may not allow someone to have a very high IV fluid. And that's a really tricky situation where pulmonary capillary wedge pressure is to be measured. And we have to put a this
Carotid.
carotid, we have to do the pulmonary pressure is to be measured and accordingly fluid has to be given. So that require a very high intensive care unit to take
Yeah.
care of these patients.
ફાઇન સાહેબ આજે અહીંયા રોકાઈ જઈએ હવે નેક્સ્ટ ક્વેશ્ચન હવે નેક્સ્ટ આપણે પ્લાન કરીએ પછી we'll have more questions topic wise I think right
Okay.
for the want of time let's do it. Thank you sir.
So you can write to me on WhatsApp and then we can decide.
હા તમે સર તમે
Thank you.
સરજી
I
મને
hope
મોડ્યુલ
whatever
તમે મને
information
મોડ્યુલ
you
સરજી કહી દો then we'll discuss and come back to you.
Okay, I will write WhatsApp to you and definitely we can decide it. Okay, bye. Bye, Pragnesh.
Sure, sir.
Thank
Yes.
you once again. Thank
I-
you, Virender bhai, for giving
Yes.
an opportunity. Thank you, PFPA. And I hope it may be useful, but think of glucose is a very important vital sign. With this, I end it. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Absolutely.
Good day.
Okay, thank you. આવજો.